No. Oh, she can speak on her own behalf.
Yes.
Mm. No,
Right, I will call the meeting to order. Welcome councillors, welcome members of the public. Welcome Councillor Gray, I think you are online. I'm hoping you can hear us. Welcome, we can see you. Thank you. And if you could please make sure that your phones are on mute. As you can guess, the meeting is being held in the upper room of the Waihinga Centre, Margaret Town Hall. It's being live streamed and it is available on the council's YouTube channel. The emergency exits, this room are the door that you came in and the exit behind me. If we do need to evacuate, please use one of those exits and assemble outside by the playground and remain there until the building has been cleared. In the event that we experience any unruly behaviour during the course of the meeting, we will also adjourn until things have quieted down and council staff will congregate in the office area behind me. I will start with please feel free to join me.
Te marainoa, ia whakapapa whaināmu te moana, hei huarahi mā tātou, I te rangi nei, aroha atu, aroha mai, tātou ia tātou katoa.
Do we have any apologies, please? We do not. Do we have any conflicts of interest? Not. Do we have any acknowledgements and tributes? Thank you.
Look, today I'd just like to actually acknowledge our fellow district, Gisborne district, with all of the rains. They're having a terrible time of it again through Tairāwhiti, Wairoa, Hawke's Bay and Te Karaka has again been affected. And to acknowledge the fact of their losing 3 of their members of their community as well. So it's a big blow to that district and just sending our thoughts from our council to theirs.
I won
Very much.
I have one tribute.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to acknowledge the passing of Bruce Craig. Bruce Craig was a Featherston, obviously the town clerk, I think, in those days, and also Margaret was a former councillor around this table. That's Bruce's wife. Yes, so I'd like to acknowledge this passing. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. We now come to public participation. Presented at 5 minutes. We'll get to the 4-minute time. Amy will wave at you. At 5 minutes, I'll let you know your time has come. We just so that people are very clear on what's happening. The only matters that can be raised in public participation of council are those that relate to recommendations and the agenda itself. If you have other matters, possibly of a novel, good idea, either need to think about raising them at a committee meeting or at the board meeting, and I believe if they get favour there, they might eventually end up council. It's also part of our standing orders that we will not listen to repetition. If you've said something previously, please do not say it again here. Please do not say the same thing that the previous speaker has said either. Please do not criticise anybody. Please be respectful. And there are a couple of matters for legal reasons of have a meeting like this either. So our first speaker is Daphne. If you could join us, Daphne, you're most welcome. And your 5 minutes starts from the time you start to talk.
The Auditor General states that every rate in a rates resolution must be in the funding impact statement with enough detail to allow ratepayers to work out their rates. The Rating Act states that you must keep and maintain a database with all the information that's required for setting and assessing rates and all information required to calculate the amount of a targeted rate. When I questioned recently if Council had all the information required to administer an SUIP-based rate, I was told it's up to QV. That is not what the Act states. There is inaccurate information and multiple anomalies in your database, albeit created by QV. Using it will result in inequities and incorrect rating of all ratepayers. There is a high risk of costly challenges and certainly concern to ratepayers affected. The change to SUIP target rates has not been well communicated or understood. Council have had since October 23 to communicate the impact clearly, bring your records up to date and fix errors, and you've not done so. The rates consultation material mentioned SUIP on one line on page 3 related only to UAGC and not target rates. Ratepayers truly did not know about the introduction and impact of SUIP on target rates. The Auditor General also said, get the details perfectly consistent between policies, statement and resolution. Near enough is not good enough. There are inconsistencies in the documents today. Infrastructure and roading rates are shown with a differential based on land use, then described as not differentiated. Roading is shown funded 30% from SUIP and 70% from capital value. The funding needs analysis shows it 20/80. Stormwater, water supply, wastewater, and water raises also have different information across the documents. SUIP is shown separately used or inhabited part, as in the Rating Act. Later, separately used or inhabitable part is used. Inhabited and inhabitable are different. In the explanation of SUIP, there's no definition of use or inhabitable. It does not refer to standalone buildings, yet this is frequently mentioned by you in your discussions. You state clarification of SUIP can be sought from QV. Remember, it is your database and your obligation to ensure ratepayers understand the way they are rated. I've been told that no matter whatever is on QV, number of units will determine number of SUIP for rates. It really is not that simple. QV do not tax us, South Wairarapa do. We have 3 new remission policies today proposed. 6 remission policies were reviewed in October 23. Council are now adding 3 more. That's 50% increase, covering retail, rural and residential properties. Pretty significant. The Local Government Act states that a local authority must consult on draft remissions policy before adopting. And if they amend a policy, they can do this, but only after consulting on the proposed amendments. We have had no consultation at all. These policies were requested at a council meeting where remission policies weren't even on the agenda. By accepting remission for some groups, you are in effect increasing rates for all of us. Hence, you should tell us and give us the chance to comment. To not consult is to go against legislation, is it not? In any case, there's quite a bit of work needed for these remissions to make sense to ratepayers. Again, there are no definition of key terms. They're arbitrary. That is to say, something that rates should not be. Why pick retail and not hospitality use? Why pastoral and not wine growing? Why unoccupied and rural but not urban? Why work as essential to farming but not fishing or hospitality? Why retail buildings when SUIP is based on separate use and inhabitable parts? Please consider these documents and the approach taken on SUIP very carefully. Remember, taxes should be levied or allowed for remission to be fair and not arbitrarily and without a full understanding of the ratepayers. I hope I'm wrong, but I fear they're just about to be. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Does anybody have a question you'd like to direct through the chair? Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Mayor Martin.
Daphne, the information that you've got, would you be able to email it through to me, please?
I've got about 3 emails over the last couple of weeks asking for a sit down with councillors to address this before the meeting today, and nobody is taking up on that, but yes, I will.
Thank you, Daphne. Cheers.
Thank you, Daphne. That brings us very neatly to 5 minutes. Well done. I appreciate that. Our next speaker is Jim Hadley. Welcome, Jim. Your 5 minutes starts from the moment you begin to address us.
Everything the rates consultant has said, you have taken on also. And you have totally ignored the objections of the farming community and have ended up with a rating model that has nothing to do with a ratepayer's use of council services. This is highlighted by council's first proposal for the economic development rate. This was to be charged to those that had short-term accommodation to fund, I believe, tourism Wairarapa. The principle being that those that benefit from promotion of the area should pay. However, the way council were to apply the rate on CV with no differential would see an average Featherston residential paying $698, whereas an average dairy farmer would pay $5,856, both supplying short-term accommodation. This inequity was all there in the prospective funding impact statement for rates. The unforeseen consequences was that a ratepayer had an option to stay in the business and pay the rate, or go out of that business and not pay the rate. The rate was a business killer. Council have therefore been forced to change the rate. The same principle applies to the rest of the functions funded by the CV of the general rate. The difference being a ratepayer cannot walk away from paying the general rate as they could for the economic development rate. And because of that, council will not have any incentive to change the unfair rate for farmers. If the benefit to the household is the same, the households should pay the same rate instead of farmers, community paying many times more. I understand council is changing the criteria for the economic community development rate to the creating of employment and funding going back to what it was. It was funded by a UAGC, not CV. If it's funded by CV, then that will see farmers paying a disproportionate amount of the rate. The question needs to be asked, who is going to get the employment? The answer is the people of the district. So why are farmers going to pay many times more than Featherston residential? The chart I have done shows an average property, some average properties, and the amount they will pay for different functions. This is the only way to compare rates. Using total rates is not the way to compare rates for the general rate. Average Featherston residential will pay $703 CV and $428 UAGC. That's less than the example given to us for if last year's rates was on CV, $702 and $1,005 UAGC. Even if you add in the functions they never paid for last year's footpath, $22.17 in infrastructure resilience, $22.24, they still pay less than last year. That's because of their low valuation increase, not because of less use of council services. They only have a total of all the functions that both urban and rural pay of 1,530. Whereas an average dairy farmer will pay 5,895 general rate. And the benefits are almost the same and 8,360 total. Most of the urban rates is for water, sewage and refuge collection, 2,870. UAGC, you have used refuge and recycling collection as part of the calculation for the 23%. About 2002, the 30% allowed was changed to exclude water and sewage only, dropping refuge collection. It is only this year that refuge and recycling collections have been used in the calculation, but up till now, the auditors have said nothing about it. So council should use the full 30% UAGC allowed and not use refuge and recycling in the calculation. The whole rating review needs to be revisited. And in
Thank you, Jim.
council's rating model, even though you have led, been led up the garden path by the council rates.
Please stand, please.
It's nice of you to stand for me. I've never had people stand for me before.
No, I'm asking you to leave. Thank you. So the next item on the agenda, extraordinary business, would you leave out?
Don't stop me from standing for me.
Is there any extraordinary business? There being none, we'll move to confirming the minutes. So we're talking about minutes from 27 March, 24 April, 15 May, 24 May. Has anybody noted a correction, please? Okay, do I have a mover to confirm that the meetings are a true and correct record? I do, thank you, the deputy mayor. Do I have a seconder?
Yeah, I'm happy to.
Thank you very much,
Yeah.
Councillor Olds. All in favour, please say aye.
Right.
Against, that's carried. Now considering the public excluded minutes of the 22nd of March, does anybody want to speak? Thank you. Do we have a mover to confirm that they are true and correct? Thank you, Councillor Olds. A seconder. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, no. Are there any matters arising from previous minutes? Yeah. We come to report backs, updates from the community boards, but we do not have any today, I believe. Mostly from committees, and so we now come to decision report from the Chief Executive. And the first one is the rather weighty delegations policy and register.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, did I miss something about the minutes on the 22nd of May? But hearings that we heard and when we passed some things, just one of the things in the minute, I'm sorry, I must have missed the date. It's scrolling very slowly. Just Rebecca's, when we proposed for the extra $1 million for capital expenditure, Rebecca's vote is not counted in there, and she was for that, so it was a 6-4 vote. So can we just amend minutes to reflect that? Thank you, Jerry.
22nd of May.
Was it 22nd of May and what was it, 4 point?
Sorry, my computer's.
Was it 4 point?
Let's try to find it again.
Thank you.
Have you found it, Amy? It's the decision about where we proposed $1 million for capital expenditure on water.
Thank you.
Oh, that's right, wasn't it, Rebecca?
Yeah, we done that.
Thank you.
Any other corrections? The floor is yours, James. No, you may not.
Action from
No.
public participation?
No.
Oh, I just thought it was an error.
We're on to.
You have missed out an agenda item.
Thank you, Chair. The first paper we've got today is an update of the delegations policy and the delegations register. I've taken the opportunity now that we have been through the realignment of staff to update the registers. That's because we have standardised our job titles so that we have commonality across the platform, and that's meant that a lot of the position titles have had to be changed. I've also in the register brought in the Rating Act delegations and the oaths and affirmations one for rate rebates, and they should be highlighted in yellow in the document, so that you can clearly see. They're in green actually on page 82, 83 and 84. Just to make sure that we have those all in one document rather than two. The delegations policy itself, I've left track changes there so that you can see what's being changed as a result of the review. The big thing to note on pages 121, I think, somewhere in there. Page 111 and 112. And they're the delegated financial authority levels for the various positions within council. And again, I've standardised these so that there's one delegated financial authority for both operational and capital, so that we don't get confused about what level applies to what within our systems. 111. And again, this has been completely refreshed because of the changes to position title.
That's great.
Anyone have any questions or issues?
Yeah, thanks, Janice.
Yeah.
Page 111, just more a query than anything. You yourself as chief executive delegate $500,000 for purchases. Is that a standard amount like for councils? It seems quite high to me. I know in the past things have happened in councils where certain things have been purchased or done, and then it comes back to bite someone. And I'd hate just to put anyone in a position where that amount of money could do that to them. If you understand where I'm coming from, is that a standard sort of amount, or?
Very often it's higher.
Right.
It can be, it's not unusual for it to be $1 million or more.
Yep.
And obviously larger councils will be larger still in terms of process and procedure. This is to just allow business to continue without us having to keep bringing things for authorisation on contracts back through council. So if ever I felt I was in a position where I needed to have some other group make that decision, please be assured I would bring the paper through council. The same as we did with Greytown, where I wasn't comfortable to make the decision, it was yours to make.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Appreciate that. Also, what's the technical delegation of $5 million to the CFO? What does that mean?
That's where you have large contracts, so things like Wellington Water or some of the bigger roading jobs, some of the journals that we have to process and things that we do around revaluations. The system requires a delegated authority to the CFO to process those. So if we have something where you as council have approved a contract, then it's likely to be above any of the DFA levels in here. If the CFO doesn't have that technical authority, we can't release anything.
Yeah, no,
So it's backed by council resolution, or it's part of the day-to-day processing that we need to do as part of the finance team. And again, that's not unusual. Neither is the value. When you do revaluations, they can be quite high values.
I'll invite Councillor Elam for just a second. The $500,000 that Councillor Woodcock just mentioned, that is actually the only figure that we ourselves will approve, or otherwise, or all the others are essentially delegated to the CE to arrange or approve. In view of the way that table on 111 is set out, I had assumed the 500,000 and 200,000 below, etc., were all related to purchases that were, if you like, approved in the budget or the plan already. Because the one we talked about is unbudgeted expenditure.
Absolutely. And that's the descriptions of the various columns are on page 110. And that does say that column A is the authority to purchase, whether within the budgets or the long-term plan. So,
Does that help in any way, councillor?
Yep, no, good, thanks, Martin.
Councillor Egan?
Things pass. I'll put a pass in.
Okay, then, right. So I will seek any other comments if there being none. I'm going to follow the example of the deputy mayor, seek collective approval for them all. So we are about to vote on receiving the report, approving the $500,000 delegation to the CE in line with the policy. Note the other delegations of the CE is recorded. Approve the delegation legislative functions under the Local Government Rating Act and the Oaths and Declaration Act, and then finally to approve the amended delegation register for all legislative functions following the amendment of the different titles. So I do, Councillor Maynard, this meeting closed. Second, we get, do you wish to any more comments? And then I'll put on recommendation 1 to 5. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
To the contrary, I think. Now we come to item D2, which is the adoption of the fire management. Once again, I'll call on to the
Chair. Following deliberations where you moved the change of cash flow and borrowing processing. So you resolved to manage cash flow and only borrow when you needed to. That required the Treasury and Liability Management Policy to be rewritten down to that decision, but also to bring it in line with the Local Government Funding Agency covenants that they require us to operate under. So the Treasury and Liability Management Policy that's existing today has been prepared for us by Bancorp Treasury Services. They are now engaged by us to give us support in that space. This is a very standard document in terms of what it contains and how it operates. And it really just reflects that change of stance, if you like, in terms of how we will manage borrowing going forward.
Any questions at this stage? I think we're all reasonably clear on what
Yes.
this is seeking. Reasonably clear on the many benefits that will follow from. Just next to us.
It's just a comment. I think it's possibly worth noting for anyone who's watching online or watches back later, just to pick up on a comment that Janice made around the deliberations and just reflecting and being aware that today's meeting is the final adoption of a number of decisions that have already been made in previous meetings, formal council meetings. So whilst the community might not see as much robust debate as they may expect, it's because that has already happened to get us through the decision that enabled these documents to happen. So I think it's just worth noting that so people don't think, oh, why are those councillors not arguing or debating these things further? We've already done that.
Another public meeting.
It's a public meeting, us to forming or for you to forming the document before us. And that's the case with all of the documents we're adopting today.
I suspect there's probably less debate on this issue than most.
Oh, on the actual wording of this, indeed.
So that's that's good. So we have two recommendations, one to receive the report, one to adopt new policy effective from 1 July 2024, and noting that it will be reviewed either in 3 years when it should be required. Do I have a mover for both of those, please? I do. Thank you, Councillor Rolls. Councillor Hawley, second. Councillor.
No, I'm fine, absolutely fine.
I would just like to comment on, I think it's a fabulous change and it's been done very well and I'm really pleased to see this.
Okay, yes, Councillor.
Just one thing, Martin, or one or two. Section 4.7, page 143. And the remission of road, the addition was made to provide relief to ratepayers with more than one separately used to inhabitable park.
I think you've come to that ahead. We'll come to that.
Oh,
Yep, you will come to
in the wrong section, but on the wrong section.
You're going too fast.
Well, D2. D2, oh, sorry.
that.
We're in high productivity mode.
Jump ahead.
What?
Right, so I will put both of those motions together. Aye.
Aye.
Against. It's carried unanimously, I suspect. So now we come to D3, which Councillor Woodcock.
Yeah,
Which is the adopt
lost that one.
rating policies. Item D3 on the agenda.
D2, yeah. What?
Thank you, Sire. This is the combination of all the consultation deliberations over the past 2 years that actually started under the prior council. And we have discussed recently with minor additions from last week's discussion regards to the remission of those targeted rates on additional certs in the two examples, the retail, the owner operator on site, and the pastoral and dairy farming where the residential buildings are either uninhabitable, empty, or occupied by essential workers to that dairy and pastoral operation. At the time, I had said that we also needed a remission for additional SERPs where the SERP itself wasn't connected to water and wastewater. When I consulted and ran through the policies with our legal advisors, they advised that actually our rating funding impact statement and rates resolution already enabled that to happen. It said that this was per connected SERP was the additional charge. By that, the nature of an unconnected SERP shouldn't be charged anyway. So there was no need for that remission. So that's just to explain why that is no longer in the policy.
Thank you.
I would also just reassure the table that all of these policies have been reviewed by Simpson Grierson, who are experts in rating and the Rating Act. And any amendments that they've asked us to make as a result of that review have been made.
Thank you, Jess.
Thank you.
Just to clarify making those adjustments, that doesn't mean that we have to go back out and do any further consultation, as was raised in public participation.
Through the chair, you already had that one remission. This is just changing the criteria to adopt additional criteria on that remission. So that was already publicly notified. And as we said last week at the workshop, what we've done is change the criteria. So it's not a new remission, we've just changed the criteria.
An amended.
It's an amendment.
Thank you.
Can I just thank Charlie, your team for listening to what we said, particularly. It's probably gone a long way to reducing some of the anxiety out there, particularly
In the rural area.
And in the rural area about that, because it's very important to get this right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor.
Thank you, Martin. I was going to add also, it's great to see from someone sitting around this table of elected members that concerns and issues which have been raised by our residents and ratepayers have been brought to us, and we've been able to discuss some stuff like Councillor Plummer and others have said, that those concerns have followed through into this, this document and workings today.
I'm just going to call a short amendment to discuss a procedural matter. So, talk amongst yourselves for a couple of minutes.
I was gonna say, how you doing, Alex? Oh, I see.
Find it out.
All right.
I think.
Halcyon days.
Oh, I
Yeah,
gather my thoughts.
I get some James.
I was gonna ask, oh, it was about, the communication of, to those affected by SERPs. Can I just confirm that all of those who, will be impacted or have this applied to them have already been contacted? Yes. I just wanted that publicly.
Given the feedback we've had, I'm pretty sure they've been contacted. Covered them all.
Okay, so, yes, thank you.
So did we say something? We've got this. All right.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry, I missed what you said.
No, I was asking,
No, I
Oh,
was saying.
no. Oh, you would say, okay, okay.
sorry, I thought Councillor Boss
No, not a thing.
had a comment to make. So, if we come now to the revenue and finance and policy, sorry, we come to what we're talking about, which is the rating policies report. And so that there are a number of, in fact, there are 5 recommendations, and I am going to take them separately. I'm going to split the recommendation that's in front of me so that we deal with the revenue and financing policy before we deal with some other matters. It's just that there's a little tweak in the relevant legislation which says we have to have our financing policy in place before we do some other things. So I just wish to make it very clear that that is what we know. So do I have a mover to receive the rating? Yes, I do. Councillor, second to Councillor Bosley. All in favour, please say aye. So now we come to the addition of the remission of rates policy for the remission of uniform general charge and the uniform rates on retail properties. So, I have all in favour, please say aye. Approve the addition to the remission of rates policy for the remission of uniform annual general charge, uniform targeted rates on pastoral and varying properties in certain circumstances. Councillor Elands moves, Councillor Crossley seconds. Please say aye. So now we have come to adopting policies, and I'm going to start with asking for a mover to adopt the revenue and financing policy from Mr. July. The Deputy Chair moves it and Councillor Holt seconds it. All in favour, please say aye. Now I come to adopt the following, come to adopt the remission of rates policy. If some time on, do I have a, I do a councillor, and councillor Bosley seconds, all in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Then we come to the remission of sustainment of rates, RE freehold land policy. Maynard, I will second it. Say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And then we have a noting recommendation that these viewed again along to 34. I have a meeting with that. Thanks, Councillor Evans and Councillor Maynard. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
So now we come possibly to what I think is the main thing the year, which is the adoption and annual plan. That's item B4. Papers. And
Thank you, Chair. There are several other recommendations for this report other than just adopting the enhanced annual plan. We're also seeking approval to carry forward approximately $6.7 million of capital works that haven't completed in this year. And there is, I believe, a document towards the end for you that outlines what those are. So page 289 has the detail of what makes up that 6.76 of unspent capital that we're asking to transfer. We also found that in the creation of the fees and charges document that you approved at deliberations, there were two sets of fees that had dropped off the table. They're not new, but we need to seek permission to replace them back into the fees and charges schedule. And then it's the actual adoption of the document itself. So there are three distinct parts to what we're asking from you today. We went through the enhanced annual plan documents in the workshop last week. There were not any significantly major changes recommended from that process. So what you see in front of you is currently still the Word version of that document. It is still with the designers. We have had a draft back that's got the preliminary and linked to the look and feel that we had around the consultation document. So we're taking the same look and feel through to the final plan. There is the requirement in the Local Government Act for us to have a final document within 4 weeks of adoption. So 4 weeks from today is the deadline we have to have the final document available to the so we're working towards that, obviously, with our designers to make sure that that happens. There are no, like I say, no major changes to the content or the document at all. So it's what you saw at last week's workshop.
Can I just make a comment? And it was, it's a nice comment for our councillors that yesterday, in the years thing, we had a member of the public who often presents here today come up to us and say a compliment to all us around the table of the depth and thought that's gone into this document. And it's not very often that we get that, and for somebody to come up and say that. So I just thought I'd pass that on. There were 4 of us who received that, and it was really, it was a really nice comment from a member of this public to come up to us.
This person is a knowledgeable person who's
Very knowledgeable, who often presents to us, would have come here to say it himself, but couldn't make it. But I just wanted to, I won't embarrass you by saying who it was, but
no, don't.
so it was a wonderful feeling to actually get a member of the public come up to us and thank us for all the been put into this.
Yeah, thanks for passing that on.
And they did also, just following on from that, they did state that they had read the enhanced annual plan in full prior to coming up to us, let us know that. And as they do that every year with the different annual plans and with different things that we have running through at the council, they felt that this enhanced annual plan was really comprehensive, and it showed that a lot of thought and due diligence had gone into this. So it was really wonderful feedback, and much appreciated at what can be quite a big, weighing time on a lot of us council here at the council. So
I think a lot of that goes to the staff and their effort.
absolutely.
Dennis, to your team, thank you.
I think it's much more readable. Recent books.
As far as these documents go. Readable is a relative term.
Yeah.
So it's not something I would generally pick up and read.
I take it to bed every night,
Yeah.
but no one else in my bed, so.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like, before we carry on and perhaps move to vote on the various recommendations, I'd just like to follow on from Councillor Palmer's comments and acknowledge all of the community members that helped us get to this point. We had a very well engaged consultation period. I think did consultation in quite a different way. We had lots of opportunities for people to engage with us, and saw a number of people come through both in person and in written submission. And I feel quite genuinely that around this table we took that feedback very seriously, and I hope that our community can see that their feedback has fed into this document and the tweaks and changes that have been made to it. And whilst nobody likes to get a rates bill or a rates increase, I hope that they can see that we've focused heavily on the things that we've heard that are important, structure, roading, etc., and that where we can, we've fed their feedback into us. So I thank you to the community for their part that they've played.
Yeah.
Just a question, if I may. Recommendation 2 is that we carry over the unspent capital, which makes good sense. What about projects that potentially we expected to be finished in this past year, but still have a bit of remaining work to do? But probably some of the cost at least would be operation. I'm thinking here, for example, of the Car Keep Observatory.
Arctic was.
You think it's all capital?
Yeah.
Right.
And it's on page 289. And you, through the chair, you don't carry forward operational. We only carry forward capital because it's not had any funding drawn down or applied to it until you do it.
Yes, thanks.
Thanks, Mayor Martin. Just a question to you, Janice. Now that we've come to the conclusion of this EAP and the lead up to the LTP next year, is there going to be an opportunity to review those capital projects that have been forecast in the previous LTP? We're now in year 4. Is there going to be an opportunity to review, the projects that were forecast in that last LTP, which is I think 2021, to review those projects from year 5 onwards?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
The LTP is a complete reset of expectations. And I think everyone recognises that what we thought was the plan in 2021 may no longer be where you want to plan to go in 2025. So yes, all the capital will come back to the table.
It'll be great to go through that process. The world has certainly changed in the last 3 years or 4 years, 5. Thanks.
So if we come to the recommendation.
Could I just add on just quickly to what Councillor Enos has said? Thank you, Chair. It has changed, but not necessarily in the way that we thought it was going to change in 2021. And so that was a big thing, I think that there may be things there that it would be really good to look at it with fresh eyes moving forward, definitely, because there's certainly been a lot of changes where we thought we were going to have a lot of people displaced. And that hasn't happened. You know, the different mitigations that we thought we're really needing to look at, that actually do they need to be up front? Do they need to be moved out? Things like that. So, yeah.
So let's come to the recommendations, of which there are 6. Does anybody have an objection if we put them as a collective? Okay, then I will move recommendations 1 to 6. Do I have a seconder, please? I do, councillor Elam. Any discussion from anyone? In favour, please say aye. Aye. Contrary?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Done.
Yeah. Well,
Well, no, not quite.
but can I just say, well done to the team. Yeah. Both here at the table and to our council staff.
So we come to the setting of rate, item D5. I hand back to you, please.
Thank you, Ms. Mayor. So the recommendations that have been resolved so far build up to this. So you have to have your policies, you have to have your budgets, and as we've approved all of those, by the very nature of it, you then set your rates based on those. So this report contains the rates that you are setting for the 12 months to 30 June 2025, and the dates of those instalments, penalties, the procedurals around setting the rates.
See if there's any comments.
Page 312.
Okay, so I found it, they got 4, 3. I wrote down the wrong page numbers.
Right, well, in that case, do I have a mover to receive the setting of rates, due dates, for these 2024 to 2025?
Yes.
Yes, I do. Paul, do I have a second? Obviously, do I have any more comments? I don't. And I shall put the recommendation, all in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
And against? Okay. Come to the second, yes.
So for one,
We're just voting on.
yeah, no, for it, yeah.
So we come to the second recommendation, which is that in accordance with section 23 of the Local Government Rating Act 2002, the council sets the rates as prescribed below for the rating year, starting on 1 July 2024. Aye, do I have a mover? I do, councillor Olds, at the second. Do I have anybody who wants to comment? Raise a question? No? Yes.
Overall, I think Janice and the team have done a pretty good job. I'm still not happy with where we've got to. I still see a lot of wasted money, especially within the Three Waters side of things, with the more and more stories I'm hearing from contractors and bits and pieces, but I don't want to throw anyone under the bus. And I'm not overly happy with the way this sort of things turned out for some people. Yeah, but that's all I'll say for me.
I don't think any of us are happy. We need, don't think any of us are overly 100% happy, but we need to move, capture it somewhere.
Yes, well, I think rates are what they refer to as a zero-sum game. In order for some people to, shall we say, be better off under whatever system we adopt, somebody else will be worse off. Question is, do we have a fairer system now than we have a year ago. And what does fairness mean? I think one element of fairness is a reasonable expectation of people who use a certain set of services pay for those services. That's I think would come in efficient. People, one of the aspects would be those who are more able to pay, as with our income tax system, are they paying more than those who are on the phones if they're vaccinated, etc. And there will be other things as well come in that. And I've never heard anybody say they've come up with a system. I do personally believe better system. So, but yeah, with next year we'll see if we can make it even better.
Could I just add one more thing, sorry? I'd just like to say thanks to Janice for coming along, because she has opened our eyes to different ways of looking at things and doing things, and we're definitely in a better position than we were before she got here. So.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look, just before I go to Councillor Hillams, I will certainly endorse that kind of extend my thanks to Paul who kept the ship going for quite
Sure.
Gets us to a position where I think Dennis would have something to make up. Councillor Hillams.
Thanks, Mayor Martin. I'd just like to, and certainly taking board Councillor Woodcock's comment about the SORPs, etc. However, I think I am heartened by the fact that we have done a hell of a lot of work consulting and talking with our members of the community, and while we do have some members who come and raise issues with us regularly, we still need to take on board the feedback and the issues of the remaining 11,000 residents across our whole district, and so that's what we're charged with. I'm also heartened by the fact that this is what we are doing now is setting this for a 1-year period. We've also set that rate remission policy we talked about earlier, and that's to be reviewed next year as well. So I think with continuous improvement, we will, like we have improved from last year, we will improve going forward. And I think, it's not, we're shutting the door on any of those discussions that some of our residents and our ratepayers will continue to have with us. I think it's going to be a continuing moving opportunity to do things better and to improve going forward. So yeah, thanks again, Janice and Charlie, for the work that you guys have put into this.
So, yeah, thank you for your comments, but it is a team effort. What ends up in front of you at this table is not all done by me, it's done by the whole team. So I just acknowledge the whole of the organisation heading us to where we are.
Yes.
Janice.
Absolutely.
Right. If there's any more, what we'll do now is to move motion, which was moved by Councillor Old. Either of them wish to? No, thank you. So all in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
And to the contrary. That's one against. Okay, thank you. And did we record? Thank you. Information reports from the income officers. So we will to finish very quickly, I hope, with the mayor's report. 2 items. One relates to a matter of some urgency, the local government water services preliminary arrangements, which Robin Wells, on behalf of 3 local councils, met with the Fleet Commission yesterday. I just want to alert councillors to two important features on it. This particular bill was actually introduced without any notice at all. Normally, when something of this significance gets introduced, the minister stands up, makes a press release, gets on TV. On this occasion, it was introduced in such a way that it was actually several days before people had even realised it was there and that submissions had been invited. So as I say, there was no fanfare, and the deadline for submissions was in fact the 13th of June. So that too is a very, very short time frame for something of this magnitude. It's a bill with 98 clauses, it's got 2 schedules, and it requires territorial authorities like us to prepare something called a water service delivery plan. Now, there's a number of other things it requires too, but the water services delivery plans are going to take a considerable amount of effort from people like ourselves and cost. And the advice that government has had and government is working on is that these are trivial exercises that will take no more than 40 hours work for a council like ours. Well, I mean, this is a serious mistake, and unfortunately the whole bill has been designed in such a way that that assumption must be correct. So one of the things that I spent some time doing, in fact, was going through a number of submissions, not only ours, but also from Government New Zealand and from some other councils, making sure that they had picked up on this, because it's not so easy necessarily to pick up on the fact that there is a major task about to come our way, and we've often talked in the past about things called unfunded mandates. Well, this is a huge unfunded mandate, and whereas with the plans of the previous government, they had intended to pick up reasonable, if not a substantial part of the bill, of making some of these changes. The new minister has made it quite clear that it's our water and all the costs are on us. So I'm pleased to say that when it came to a number of the oral submissions, which were happening on Monday and today, that in fact people have focused in on that cost that could be coming with the councils. If the government ignores us, then, and that's the collective us, many councils that are submitting orally, then well, it's something to take into consideration as we think about it. One of the other things that I think is slightly disappointing is that a number of councils asked to submit in person, including ours, because I think we will all agree that when we have somebody who submits to us face to face, it does carry slightly more impact than somebody who's submitting on the screen. Unfortunately, the select committee has denied that opportunity as well. So that's the just some little background that's both alerting you to possibly what might happen and also to the serious. Yes, thanks.
Thanks, Mayor Martin. As Councillor Olds is our representative with other councils around the Wellington and the Wairaka district representing SWDC on the process going forward under the new water services process, is he able to perhaps provide us with a brief update as to where we are at the moment, or perhaps Janice?
Yeah, well, I think in all fairness to Councillor Olds, it was only days ago that Councillor Olds did do that, but you spoke to us at the last meeting.
Oh, since then, of course, we've had the select committee presentations. Yeah, sure, yeah. But
you alerted us to
can I just just make one comment is that I spoke to Robin about providing some information around the council table. She's working on doing something joint with the other two councils so that we all receive the information across the Wairarapa at the same time. So it'll give some clarity around what we face and the challenges that we move ahead. Yeah. Thanks, Colin.
Yeah, through the chair, there will be an update at the working next week.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Could I just ask a question here in your comments here, Martin? You've said you've written to Local Government New Zealand asking them to amend their submission. On what authority have you done that?
Just on the authority of somebody who's read all of their submissions, knows what was submitted. And I spoke to them about was this a deliberate omission or had they realised what was going on, and any of us couldn't have done.
So you haven't written on behalf of South Wairarapa District Council,
No.
just yourself as Martin. Thank you. Then I would say that this report is a personal report. It's not a mayoral report, because our person who is actually responsible for this project and this issue is Colin, and he should be writing this report to us. Thank you.
Well, as I say, he too has made a considerable contribution, and he too has had a number of other matters that have been on his radar. Confident that he is fulfilling those, and I'm just like very comfortable that this is a suitable matter for him. So the second matter was that back in June, we received a letter regarding the Greytown Wheels Park. It generated some concern to councillors. The project is behind schedule, possibly, and one effect of projects that get behind schedule is that costs often rise. And I think it's fair to say that at the governance level, we have not always had a full picture of the progress of our total capital works program, of some of the projects within it. And all projects are inherently risky to a greater or lesser extent. Capital works projects particularly so. And I've just listed some of the things that often and frequently do go wrong. And I make the observation that effective governance oversight of our capital works program requires us to be clear about what our role as governance is. And in particular, the Auditor General notes that we need to have clearly defined roles and responsibilities that separate the governance role from the management. And that would include issues about how projects are initiated, varied, and controlled. We should have, again, according to the general governance structures, that include a clear accountability framework that shapes how the project's financial and operational audited and reported. And because this is a risky venture, we should, at the governance level, risk management framework that formally defines it and helps us as governors understand what our role is compared to what, for example, Genesis is. Now, we obviously have a risk and assurance committee, but it hasn't so far taken a look of the capital works program. So I think we need to do something about it. And what I propose is that we have a governance development and training workshop for us to the next and audit risk and finance meeting, so that we understand what our current governance practices are, so that we make sure, hopefully, that all significant projects have a sponsor with a governance oversight, that we hear from Janice on the steps that she has taken since she's been here to improve the management framework projects, and that we make sure that going forward, the committee plays a full role in managing capital works projects at the government. So that's that. Thank you, Councillor May.
So you Chair, can I just clarify? I would have thought that there was a governance risk management, you know, that we actually have something already there. So if we are looking at any kind of workshop, I think it's important to see what we have that then may need to be fleshed out if it does, or but I think this just does read a little bit like we've got nothing in place. I don't believe that's the case. And the past governance has had that you know, that oversight. There is something that explains how our roles work and what the difference is between the governance and between the office, you know, so it's a, I think if anything, it's just to perhaps get clarity on that and then to see what steps to flesh out how we can have, if we need it, more oversight on certain things when it does come to those larger projects that we have in place. That's my thoughts on what we could possibly look at during this workshop, rather than looking at it as though we haven't got anything.
Well, that's exactly why that first point is there, that we have a stock take of what our government practices. And it's possible, as you say, that if we went back a couple of years, they might have been a bit different, but maybe things have looked off a bit. It's just yes, Councillor.
I'd just be interested in Janice's view of what is currently in place and where she is taking her operational team. Whilst I don't disagree with you that there needs to be clear governance oversight, I have a concern that we could unwittingly fall into the murky waters of governance becoming far too operational or falling into the weeds when we need to have a very strategic overview. So Janice, are you able to speak to that, please?
As you know, for some time, I have been championing that we bring an in-house project manager into the team. And we're working on doing that now so that we have the in-house capability to do that better than we have done in the past. I'm also looking to bring forward what I'm calling project justification documents, so that every project that we have would have clear definitions around what is the objective of it, what are the milestones, what are the resources required. So on one page or two sides, so that we know what each project's there for. I'm also looking for what I'm referring to as work plans around these projects that are more detailed around the 5 project levels of, you know, when you're going through concept design, initiation, all the way through to commencing the project at the end, the commissioning phase. And my intention is that they will form the reporting that goes through to the Assurance Risk and Finance Committee. So there will be potentially 2 reports that go to ARF, depending on the nature of how they're operating. If it's a regular update on where we're at, because reporting just on value isn't giving you the information you need to know whether we're on track. You can have spent no money and done a lot, or you could have spent a lot of money and done not much. So finance is one tool to measure, but it's not all of the tools that you need to measure where you're at with the overall programme. There may also be a public excluded report around capital programmes if we have something sensitive we need to talk to you about. So that's where I'm heading in the next 3 to 6 months. I'm already talking to the team around the templates and how they look, and then how we can make sure that we don't overburden the team with filling out lots of bits of paper that don't lead to the same outcome. So we're regularly picking this up at the strategic leadership team table now, about how we put this in place and how we move forward.
Councillor Holmes, Councillor.
Yeah, I just want to make an observation and not a criticism, is that I have to say the last training where we had our committee structure set up in the manner that it was, officers were reporting every 6 weeks back to those various committee structures. So we were being fully informed about progress, about a number of other things that were brought to our attention. with the new structure that was introduced by Mayor Martin at the beginning of this triennium and subsequently perhaps not receiving that level of intensity in reporting that we had previously. So it's just an observation and it's not designed to be a criticism, but thank you.
Councillor Paul.
Yes, I feel very strongly that Janice and her team have got control of the improvements we need in this system. Yeah, I think it did slack back, partly because we didn't have a project manager in place. I would like to defer looking at this, us having a governance development and training workshop until for perhaps about 6 months to review the situation, because we're talking about all the extra work we've got to do. And I think this is quite honestly a waste of effort when I think the work that's been done will cover it. So I'd like to propose that we defer looking at this training workshop that will, especially if we have other consultants or anything involved, will cost money and a lot of time. And I think the work's already been done, so I'd like to suggest.
As was mentioned in this report, this came about with regards to the Greytown Works Park in particular. Now that project, is there something that's going to come through shortly to the governance to be able to, so that will be coming through to the strategy? Yeah, okay, so that's really good. I think that's probably the best place to start, because at least then we can start getting something and work out from there on the actions, how we'd like that to be reported on for that. But then bearing in mind that the full thing can be being looked at within the next 6 months. So
If I can reassure the table, if we find ourselves in a situation where what we thought we were going to be able to deliver is no longer possible, for whatever reason, we would bring it back to the table.
yeah, absolutely.
Can I also add to what you've just said, Pip, that with the Wheels Parts project, when all the concern came up, Boz and I and Melissa, Janice made herself available for us to talk through the issues, which was fantastic. So I think the issue of oversight and things when these come up, I'm the council that's got the delegated responsibility for that project from us, and Janice heard the concerns and is acting on those concerns. So I think the system is actually there. Janice makes herself available if we need to. Good on you.
Well, maybe I have overestimated.
What is just in the end?
Yes, I see that. Overestimated the level of concern. Thank you.
Yeah, you don't mind the idea of having this workshop and that to look into it, whether we wait till we have a project manager on board or whatever Janice has got sort of in the wind there. And I still like the idea of talking to guys like Guppy over in the hut, just about how they've gone about certain things and taking projects in-house rather than with Wellington Water, etc. And get a little bit of a view and an idea of picking some brains like that. Overall, it's not a bad idea.
Any other? What I propose to do is to just move recommendation 1 and withdraw the others. So I will move that the meeting receives the report. I have a still doing thanks. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, it's carried. And that is the final matter for today. So thank you for that, and thank you to everybody, for you, Janice, who has contributed to today's meeting over a very long time. If we come to closing here now, please again feel free to join. Everybody, well,
2 years, you're going to wait around. 2 years. It's a workshop, is it not? Can we not just?
We can't move it forward because it's open.
Thanks.